Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about real estate. Specifically, real estate that is light years away from Earth. Since the 1990s, we have been spotting planets orbiting stars other than our own, and the numbers are staggering. We are diving into the weirdest, most unusual, and downright terrifying exoplanets astronomers have ever discovered. Tick 241,249,530b and the retrograde loop. Let's start with a planet that has an identity crisis. This is TIC 241,249,530b. The name rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? This planet isn't necessarily weird because of what it is made of, but rather because of how it moves. In our solar system, we are used to nice, orderly circles. Earth goes around the sun in a relatively stable loop. This guy, however, has one of the most eccentric orbits we have ever seen. And when I say eccentric, I don't mean it wears funny hats. I mean its orbit is stretched out like a rubber band. This egg-shaped path brings the planet 10 times closer to its star than Mercury is to our sun, which is scorching hot, and then slingshots it all the way out to a distance comparable to Earth's orbit. Imagine having a year where you spend summer literally frying inside the corona of your sun and winter chilling out in the habitable zone. This extreme yo-yo diet is likely turning TIC 241249530b into a hot Jupiter, a class of gas giants that orbit dangerously close to their stars. But here is the real kicker. It is orbiting backwards. Almost every planet we know, including everything in our solar system, orbits in the same direction that the star rotates. It's just how angular momentum works when a solar system forms. But this planet is doing the opposite, orbiting in a retrograde direction. It is the rebellious teenager of the galaxy, running the wrong way on an escalator while screaming at the top of its lungs. HD 189773b, the blue marble nightmare. Next up, we have a planet that looks deceptively beautiful. If you looked at HD 189773b through a telescope, you would see a gorgeous, deep, azure blue sphere. It looks serene. It looks like a water world. It looks like home. Do not be fooled. This is the ultimate catfish of the universe. Located only 64 light-years away, this is the closest hot Jupiter to Earth, and it is a death trap. That beautiful blue color isn't water. It is the reflection of silicate particles in the atmosphere. For those of you who don't know, silicate is the stuff glass and sand are made of. The surface temperature here is a hellish 1,300 degrees Celsius. At that heat, those silicate particles condense to form literal grains of glass. But it's not just foggy with glass dust. The winds on this planet are blowing at 8,700 kilometers per hour. That is 7 times the speed of sound. So, if you were to step onto the surface of this planet, you wouldn't just be incinerated. You would be caught in a supersonic hurricane where it rains glass sideways. You would be shredded to ribbons before you even felt the heat. It is a horror movie disguised as a marble. Toy 849b, the naked core. Let's move to something a little more mysterious. In 2020, NASA's TESS mission spotted Toy 849b. This place is stressful. It orbits so tightly to its star that a full year complete orbit takes just 18 hours. If you lived there, you would be celebrating a birthday twice a day. What makes Toy 849b truly weird is that it shouldn't exist. It is about the size of Neptune, which should make it a gas giant, but it's not gaseous. It is incredibly dense and rocky. In fact, it is the largest rocky world we have ever discovered, weighing in at 40 times the mass of Earth. Astronomers think this is a Chthonian planet, that is a fancy term for the dead, exposed core of a gas giant. The theory is that this used to be a massive planet, like Jupiter, but it got too close to its star, and the intense radiation blasted away its entire atmosphere, leaving behind this naked, burnt husk of a core. It is a planetary skeleton floating in space. Bubble ASP1 to be the planet being eaten alive. Speaking of planets getting too close to the fire, let's talk about bubble ASP1 to be. This planet is currently in a death spiral, located 600 light-years away in the Auriga constellation. Whereas 1 to b is so close to its yellow dwarf star that gravity is literally tearing it apart. You know how the moon's gravity pulls on Earth's oceans to create tides. Imagine that force, but amplified by a star pulling on a gas giant. The tidal forces are so strong that the planet isn't a sphere anymore. It has been stretched into the shape of an egg or a rugby ball. The star is stripping material off the planet's atmosphere, devouring it bit by bit. The planet has swelled up from the heat and is distorting as it spirals inward. Astronomers estimate that in about 3 million years, which is a blink of an eye, in cosmic time WASP 1 to b will be completely consumed. It is a slow-motion car crash on a galactic scale. Rogue worlds, the lonely wanderers. So far, we have talked about planets that are suffering because of their stars. But what about planets that don't have a star at all? These are the rogue worlds. Most of us assume that a planet needs a star to orbit, but the galaxy is actually full of nomads. These are planets that were likely ejected from their solar systems during the chaotic early days of formation and flung out into the void. Take Oort for example. It is located 550 light-years away in the constellation Chameleon. It is a massive object, 11 times heavier than Jupiter, drifting through the dark alone. It has no sun to warm it, no year to track, and no day or night cycle. It is just eternal darkness. Then you have OGLE 2016 BLG 1928. This one was found using a technique called where we watch for the gravity of a planet to bend the light of a background star. This rogue is likely smaller than Earth, just a frozen rock floating in the vastness of interstellar space. It is the ultimate introvert's dream, or a nightmare of isolation, depending on how you look at it. 55 Concrete E, the Diamond World. Now for a planet that sounds like a get-rich-quick scheme. Pit 55 Concrete. This was the first super-Earth discovered around a main sequence star. And for a long time, the data suggested something incredible. The planet orbits a star with a high carbon-to-oxygen ratio. Because of the immense pressure and temperatures reaching 2,700 degrees Celsius, scientists theorized that the carbon interior of the planet had crystallized. Essentially, they thought the crust was made of graphite and the mantle was made of pure diamond. We are talking about a planet that is 1/3 pure diamond. If you could mine it, you would crash the global economy in 5 seconds. However, before you build a spaceship with a drill attached to it, recent research has dampened the party a bit. New studies suggest there might be less carbon than we thought, making the diamond theory a bit controversial. But even if it's not solid diamond, it is still a lava-covered hellscape. So maybe it's better to stay away. TRES to be the planet darker than coal. F55 concrete E is the shiny planet. TRES to be is the goth planet. Identified by the Kepler Space Telescope, this gas giant is the darkest exoplanet ever discovered. When we look at planets, we usually see them because they reflect starlight. Jupiter, for example, is full of bright, reflective clouds. TRES to be reflects less than 1% of the light that hits it. It is darker than the blackest lump of coal. It is darker than dark acrylic paint. It is so black that if you were floating near it, you wouldn't see a planet. You would just see a void where the stars are missing. It's a terrifying abyss. The only reason we know it's there is because it blocks the light of its star. KELT 9b. The planet hotter than stars. We have mentioned hot planets. But KELT 9b is in a league of its own. This ultra-hot Jupiter is the hottest exoplanet ever found. It orbits so close to its star that its surface temperature sits at a crisp 4,300 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, that is hotter than many actual stars. A red dwarf star is cooler than this planet. It is so hot that molecules can't even exist. On the day side of the planet, the heat rips hydrogen molecules apart into atomic hydrogen. The atoms flow around to the night side, where it is slightly cooler, recombine into gas, and then flow back to the day side to get ripped apart again. It also has atomic iron and titanium in its atmosphere. Not iron ore, not iron dust vaporized atomic iron gas. It is a nuclear furnace that technically classifies as a planet, but is living the life of a star. HR 5183b, the Whiplash planet. If you hate roller coasters, avoid HR 5183b. This giant is 3 times the mass of Jupiter, and it has an orbit that makes 0 sense. Usually, planets far out in a system take a long, slow, circular path. HR 5183b takes 74 years to complete an orbit, which is a long time. But it spends most of that time loitering in the outer edges of the solar system, moving slowly. Then, suddenly, gravity grabs it, and it dive bombs toward the star. It slingshots around the star at breakneck speeds, passing a hair's breadth away, before peeling back out into the darkness. It's been nicknamed the Whiplash planet. Astronomers also call it a wrecking ball, because an object that big moving that erratically would destroy the orbit of any other planet in the system. It's the bull in the china shop of exoplanets. K218b. The confusing ocean world, K218b, caused a massive stir in the scientific community back in 2019. It is twice the size of Earth and orbits in the habitable zone of its star. The headlines went wild because we found water vapor in its atmosphere. Finally, a second Earth. Well, not quite. The more we study K218b, the more confusing it gets. It was initially classified as a mini-Neptune, meaning it had a thick hydrogen atmosphere and a rocky core, where the pressure would crush you instantly. Not exactly a vacation spot, but new research suggests it might be something else. entire Hyceon world. This is a theoretical class of planet that is covered in a superheated, supercompressed ocean. Imagine a global sea where the water is in a state somewhere between liquid and gas, topped by a steamy water vapor atmosphere. It's like a planetary sauna that never ends. You can't swim in it, you can't breathe the air, but hey, at least it's wet. HAT-P7b. The Sapphire Storm's HAT-P7b is another ultra-hot Jupiter that is just showing off. It is larger than Jupiter and has a tilted orbit, but the real story is the weather. The planet is tidally locked, meaning one side always faces the star and the other faces the dark. The day side roasts at 2,200 degrees Celsius, while the night side is much cooler. This temperature difference creates winds that push clouds from the night side to the day side, but these aren't water clouds. Because of the mineral composition of the atmosphere, astronomers believe the clouds are made of corundum. Corundum is the mineral that forms rubies and sapphires. So, on this charcoal dark world, violent winds are whipping around clouds made of vaporized gemstones. It sounds rich and luxurious, until you realize the radiation would melt your face off. HD 110,067, the perfect rhythm we have talked. WASP 107b. The marshmallow planet WASP 107b is breaking the laws of density. It is about the same size as Jupiter, huge and voluminous, but it has less than 1/10 of Jupiter's mass. To put that in perspective, this planet is about as dense as a toasted marshmallow. It is incredibly puffy. According to our current models of planet formation, this shouldn't happen. A planet with that little mass shouldn't be able to hold on to such a giant, puffy gas envelope. It should have collapsed or evaporated. Astronomers used the James Webb Space Telescope to look at it and are still trying to figure out why it is so inflated. It's essentially a giant cloud of cotton candy floating in space, confusing every scientist who looks at it. HIP 67,522b, the youngling. Let's finish with a baby. HIP 6752b is a very young planet, orbiting a very young star. It's located 400 light-years away, and it has a serious problem. It orbits so fast that a year on this planet is just 1 week on Earth, because the star is young. It is incredibly active, constantly blasting out solar flares and radiation. This poor planet is getting absolutely hammered. The radiation is causing the planet's atmosphere to boil off into space. It is currently the size of Jupiter, but it has very little mass. It's inflating like a balloon before it likely gets stripped down. It gives us a rare glimpse into the violent, chaotic, early years of planetary evolution. It's a rough childhood, to say the least. Kepler 450 to be Earth's older cousin. Finally, we have to mention the one that gave us hope. Kepler 45 to b. This is the closest thing we have ever found to an Earth 2.0. It orbits a sun-like star. It is in the habitable zone. Its year is 385 days long, which is almost identical to ours. It is about 60% larger than Earth, which means you'd weigh a bit more there, but it's likely rocky. The star it orbits is 6 billion years old. That's 1.5 billion years older than our sun. This planet is basically Earth's older cousin. It shows us that a planet can survive in the habitable zone for billions of years. If life evolved there, it has had a billion-year head start on us. So, there you have it. B from raining glass to burning ice. The universe is a lot wilder than our quiet little solar system. It makes you appreciate Earth a little bit more, doesn't it? We might have traffic jams and bad internet, but at least we don't have winds moving at Mach 7. If you enjoyed this tour of the galaxy's worst vacation spots, hit that subscribe button. If you don't, I'm going to personally book you a one-way ticket to the Glass Rain planet. And I won't even pack you an umbrella. Thanks for watching, and stay curious.